And Magda combines a lot of skills together: journalism, she's been blogging, she's been doing documentaries, and she also now has experience with IT, and now she trains in storytelling for Accenture. So she definitely is at a junction of everything: public speaking, storytelling, and the business world. She also interestingly sings in a Belarusian choir and also loves to do some sketching and dances tango. I'm not a great dancer, but this is one of the skills I want to master. Perhaps Magda can do a separate workshop on this at one point. So we're going to learn all about storytelling, how to paint a story with our words, because words can be very beautiful. We can paint images, we can paint characters, and Magda is going to tell us how to do that with a workshop entitled The Arts of Storytelling. Let's welcome storyteller extraordinaire, coming all the way from the scratchy borderland, Magda Olechnowicz.
Thank you, Florian. I wanted to say, please continue. Thank you so much for your kind words. Hello, everyone. So happy to see so many of you in the meeting now. I appreciate it the more that we have Saturday morning. I know it must be painful to get up in the morning, but I think it's worth your time. I will do my best to share knowledge that you can later use also in your speeches, in your stories. Okay, I see that you can see my screen. If not, please let me know. I can also see the chat. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your thumbs up. Okay, so what do you normally do on Saturday morning? I wake up, I take a sleep. Yeah, me too. It's the luxury time. But then when I already have my 12 hours of sleep, I indulge myself into some good stories. So I read some books, but also, short stories in newspapers, watch movies. I also, I'm one of these people who like the Art Eaters Festival. It's like a commercial festival where you go to a cinema and you watch commercials for a few hours without any breaks for movies. Can you imagine that? It's actually one of the ways to see some good stories, but at the same time, short stories, which is also quite important, especially when we belong to Toastmasters and we need to deliver actually short stories, 7-minute stories. The shorter, the better sometimes. As already mentioned by Florian, and by Victoria, I always introduce myself as a storyteller by passion, experience, and education. I started my career in journalism. I lived and blogged in the US and Russia. And for the past years, I've been combining my communication skills and more serious stuff like IT and business, helping big organizations in their digital transformation. It even sounds serious. However, based on my experience, I can tell you that I think we achieve really good results when we mix our passions and feelings with a logical and structured approach. And also as a TEDx mentor, I can definitely tell that the best stories are made on the intersection of feelings, emotions, and logical structural approach. So today we will try to use that balance, to keep that balance between these two areas. Okay. There are many workshops, especially if you belong to Toastmasters. If you belong to Toastmasters, many workshops that cover the topic of storytelling. We often hear about best structures, best narrative structures, hero's journey. often when we are not native speakers of English, for example, and we present in English, we try to round every sentence, you know, try to find every grammar mistake. And we sometimes pay too much attention to, let's say, this more logical layer of stories. However, today, I would like to invite you to reverse this process a little bit, to connect with our emotions and feelings first, and only then try to package it with some techniques that we will mention during the workshop. So first, I will show you the picture, the visual, the video actually. And this picture, this video will tell us a story, but without words. So we will already have the message of the story. We will have the moral of the story, all the episodes. What we won't have in this story are words. So we will have a story told by pictures and music. And our task through the entire hour will be to translate these scenes into a told story. This is actually the most crucial moment of this workshop, as we all need to watch this video carefully to be able to work together for another 50 minutes. So if you wish to grab something to drink or eat, please do it right now. I invite you also to participate actively in this workshop to make sure that we take most of this meeting. And as mentioned on the way, I will share some tips, some knowledge, and I will also try to address your concerns that I will see in the chat. I will still need to pin the chat window. Also, Dorota is with us. Dorota Ucieklak, she is our chat moderator, so she will help us she will help to address any comments, any suggestions you may have. Okay, so I hope you are ready now. Thank you, Dorota. I hope you are ready now, and we will watch now this 4.5 minutes video. And I ask you to follow it closely, so later you are able to describe what happened in that story, because we will kind of deconstruct it. Now I have a question. How do you feel after watching this story? Please post your feelings in your comments in the chat. And you write sad, disturbed and confused. Why confused, Tomasz? Connected with the child.
I was confused with the final twist.
Confused or surprised?
I would say confused, because all the storyline was rather sad, so it's evoked those type of emotion in me in the end.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tomek. Connected with a dog. Devastated. Surprising, very good caption. Yeah, I also felt absolutely devastated. And actually at the moment when it was revealed that the story is about a dog, for me, it was also like, out of a sudden, it became very realistic. Until that point, I was watching it and I didn't feel that strong emotion. But later, when I saw that it's about leaving a dog on the road after adopting it, I was like, no. Kirti writes, a surprise and a very good caption on how all dogs' relation with the child. Exactly. And thank you so much, Kirti, for that. Because my next question is, what is the message? So here Kirti writes, dog's relation with child. So yeah, that's brings us close to the main message. What do you think? What was the main message, the moral of this story? What the author wanted us to think. So definitely they wanted us to feel sad, to feel sorry for dogs, for what can happen with them. But then second question, what is the moral of the story? What they want us to think? Be responsible. Dogs are beings. Yeah, dogs are like human beings. Exactly. If you get a dog, you must be prepared to keep the dog for its life. Analyze, you cannot have only the good time. Be responsible for being your own. Thank you, Ivanka. Don't treat dogs as objects. Tomek, parents tend to be busy to be with their child. Yes, that was also a very clear message in one of the scenes. And the papa is playing on his computer and doesn't care about the child. But exactly, and thank you so much for watching this video so carefully, because in this case, if you miss the final seconds, then you don't get the story, right? Because the final minute, actually, the final 30 seconds are critical to understand the entire message. So basically, the main message, as to summarize what we have all said, is first, be responsible, give and adopt wisely. Actually, these were the last words that were included into this video. But generally, the main message was that dogs rely on us as much as children, and we need to treat them like we would treat a child. And now, Annalise writes, I was shocked when I realized the dad was going to abandon his child like he would have done with a dog. Yeah. So a little in thinking in a bit different direction, but exactly. And you see, Annalise, we tend to think that people do abandon their dogs on streets or on the roads. It's something that we all know can really happen, which makes this video really, really powerful. And as you mentioned, it was your first thought when you saw that he's abandoning his child as he would abandon his dog. Okay, now thinking more analytically, what made this story powerful? If you can name any storytelling technique that was visible to you in the narrative, how would you call that? What was actually what caused this main twist? What rhetoric device was used to achieve that effect? Surprise, Dorota writes, the message was fully revealed only at the end. Exactly. And contrast. Yeah, absolutely. The contrast was very strong. First of all, the first scenes were very happy. The music was very uplifting. Then even the music changed, right? We saw a lot of happy moments at the beginning. Well-described main character, that's absolutely true. Also a lot of details related to that character. And emotions, we felt the emotions. The question is why we felt them, like how the author of this actually managed. Yeah, Svetlana, allegory revealed at the end was powerful. Exactly. Allegory, analogy, metaphors, these are, our secret powers as storytellers. Also, Svetlana, for me, the peak moment came when I realized that the entire story is actually a kind of analogy, allegory. The last minute of the video, when I actually see the dog, was like, oh my God, striking. However, during the entire story, we resonated with a little girl So it actually shows us how powerful these tools are when, you know, we start to realize, when we start to identify some hidden similarities between two ideas that might be distant at the beginning, and in normal context they will be distant. Sometimes, and like in this case, a good original analogy or metaphor is responsible for the success of the entire story, especially when we have a short, you know, 4-7 minutes speech to deliver. And here I will just mention that analogies, allegories, metaphors, they help our audience to, first of all, resonate with our message, to feel our message. But also, if we are more, let's say, in the business context and we deliver business story, they help simplify our messages. So, for example, in one of my Toastmaster speeches, I was supposed to describe cognitive biases based on a Daniel Kahneman theory, which is quite complicated, but basically he talks about two different modes of our brain. One is very intuitive, emotional, and the other very analytical. And I started this speech from showing the trailer of a cartoon, Pinky and the Brain. And then over the entire speech, I was comparing one mode of thinking to Pinky and the second one to the brain. And that was, you know, the analogy that was underpinning the entire story. In this case, also, actually the analogy makes the difference. Revealing the analogy at the end causes this, you know, pivot, this twist, and this strong emotion at the end. And since this analogy was very, very to the point, it was very, very also strong. Okay, now let's go through this story again, scene by scene, and let's think of other tools that we can use to actually build that atmosphere that in the movie was built by the picture and the sound, by music, right? Now we have words only. So how would you start your story? Or what are good ways to start a story? Any story. Any ideas you wish to share? So we see here a car, and we see it from a perspective. We see it from a perspective of someone who is probably waiting for something, right? They're looking through the window. So it's also like a magic of a camera. That's also when we are taking pictures, it's always good to, you know, try to take it from a perspective, to show where we are currently standing. Here we know that someone is watching the car. And Thomas, description of the landscape. That's a good idea, I think. Generally describe where we are right now. So it's good to start a story from an action, or actually put our listeners into a middle of an action. So first sentence is Dorota setting the story, time, space, characters. Yes, that's correct. It's good to also set that in the first paragraph. And also, you know, to make it even stronger, we should try to make it already vivid from the first scene. Because the first scene that we make is like a promise to our audience. It's like, you know, a little bit of flirting. We want the listener to follow us. So it's good to start in the middle also of something, in the middle of action, from something that is rather unexpected, something that is not a regular event in the life of our hero. And here I took a stab on it, so you can see my version of the beginning. And so it starts, silver car, yes, this is him, finally he arrived. A red-haired Sarah couldn't wait for this moment. She used to spend hours at her window every morning since her shelter caretaker informed her that she will have a family soon. Someone she would call Mama, someone she would call Papa, and even a little sister to play with. So notice that also, first of all, it's good to find, to tell a story from someone's perspective, because if we just, describe the story in a neutral way, we cannot convey the feelings. But when we already have the perspective, starting from the first scene, our audience will get familiar with us, and we will build connection with our audience from the first scene. We introduce the hero of the story in every story to actually convey emotions, because stories are about someone, not about something, unless we can humanize this something. But generally, we should always take care of finding this perspective, this hero that can actually lead us through the entire story. Also, this first paragraph is good to describe a hero, but here what we should be aware of, that it shouldn't be just, a description like Sarah was a little girl who had red hair. She was a very lonely child living in a shelter. Every morning she waited for her new family to pick her up from the shelter. So no, we don't want to describe it. We want to make it more dynamic and put some features by the way, like here, a red-haired Sarah couldn't wait for this moment. The fact that she is red hair is not the most important. It is just here for basically helping our audience to imagine her. Okay. Do we have any other comments in the chat? Also, like, look, I didn't say here she was a lonely little girl living in her shelter, but what we can see is that she was excited when the car arrived because she awaited this person to be her new papa, and she expected to meet her family soon. So we don't need to write, oh, she felt lonely, but instead it's enough to show what she felt, what she thought. Now we have the scene when Papa is greeting Sarah when he's picking up her from the shelter. And again, so I already put some proposition of how this can be written here. Her new Papa greeted her with a warm, joyful smile and a hug in the air. A hug in the air. She didn't remember anyone holding her up in the air before. He was so strong, he was even able to lift her up together with her favorite toy, Molly, her only friend so far. Now she'll have new friends, she'll have family. Her strong Papa will take care of her. It's very important to show also the dreams and the goals of our hero. So in this case, we know that Sarah doesn't want to be lonely anymore. She wants to have a family. She wants to have friends. So far, her only friend was her little mascot, was her little toy. I called her Molly, but it's also, up to you. It's I honestly didn't think much about this name, but generally it's good to have some objects in a story that will come back to us as boomerang, and they will symbolize something. So in this paragraph, I'm trying to pay attention to Molly. If I had a camera, I would simply zoom it in, but I don't have it. So I just give a little description to a Molly to give some meaning to it, so that my listener pays attention to this symbol, to this little detail. Then also, I mentioned a few times that Sarah thinks her papa is strong and he will take care of that, because of her, because I know that at the end he will not take care of her. So already here, I want to build this contrast, that she thinks of her papa, that he is strong, responsible, and she can rely on him. So this way, by repeating it a few times, I'm also trying to build this contrast. Normally, again, in a video, it will be like uplifting music, people smiling, a lot of energy. But in that case, I need to use a little bit different technique by, again, maybe repeating something a few times and highlighting these features, these details, these moments. But also I mentioned that it's very important that we know what our hero is striving for. What is the goal of our hero? Because generally, when we listen to a story or when we read to a story, we always identify with the main character. And the stronger we identify with them, the stronger we feel their pain, their happiness later on. So this is very important to describe or mention in a few, maybe not necessarily in a few words, but somehow show the listener what our hero is striving for. And along the way, we will strive together with them, and we will feel also the pain when we see that the dream is not realized. Then we have, let's say, already a middle part. So at the beginning, we know what is happening. She is picked up from the shelter. They are driving to their home. And here is the moment when we can, let's say, build this, again, joyful atmosphere. We don't have music, we don't have picture, we have just words. So that's the moment for some vivid descriptions. I will first read the passage, and then I will tell you what I used in this paragraph, what you can also use in your stories. They were already driving to a place that she would soon call her home. She smelled a chicken ham, her favorite one. It reminded her that she couldn't eat for 2 days out of stress. Now she felt her tongue getting wet and instinctively looked into the direction of the ham, right at her papa's mouth. She didn't expect him to share his part. No way, giving away your part of food. That was not practiced in the shelter. Yet he noticed her eyes and his heart melted. Poor girl, they don't feed them well in the shelter. He shared the last bite with Sarah. He was also happy to finally have her in the family. All the formalities lasted so long, and his daughter, Jessica, kept asking him every day, "Where is the gift you promised me, Papa?" Everyone in her class already had someone to take care of. Jessica had felt as if she was missing out. And now here he comes with Sarah at the entrance door. He seldom saw Jessica with such huge eyes, and he didn't know she can smile so widely. From this day on, she wished to spend every free moment with Sarah, her little sister, the gift her parents have been promising her for weeks. And in this passage, I wish to pay your attention again of how we can describe feelings, events, what our heroes feel. So generally, Joseph Conrad said, "Don't tell the reader, show the reader." It means that it is much better to
say something that will help our reader imagine what we mean, and that will help our reader to name what we mean instead of naming it ourselves. And that means that, for example, here, I didn't write, she was very hungry. That will sound quite dry. But instead I'm mentioning she couldn't eat for 2 days out of stress. So of course we can figure out she must be very, very hungry. Then her tongue was getting wet. It's a normal sign that our appetite is growing. So again, we don't need to say that also, I don't know, the daughter was very sad, but instead we can say, I saw tears in her eyes. And this is the way to speak to imagination of our listener. So again, we should not describe and name actually the feelings in a literal way, but it's much better to describe what is happening with our hero without naming the feeling. Like here again, Jessica was very happy that she saw Sarah, so she had huge eyes, and her papa didn't know that she can smile so widely. Do you have any questions to the parts that were covered so far before we move on?
No questions so far.
Thank you, Dorota. Yeah, I'm also looking at the chat window. So guys, if you wish to clarify anything or discuss or maybe share your suggestions, because I always say that storytelling or public speaking is not science. We all have different styles. We all have different preferences. So generally every comment, every input is really welcomed. So now we are again building the situation, we are building the tension. Generally, we already know what will be the ending of the story, right? So at this moment, Tomek, I will answer your question soon. So at this moment, again, we want to, I would say, lull the attention of our audience so that they don't expect let's say this pessimistic, negative ending. Tomek, I see you have a question. How not to put too much of your life baggage into the story that is not related? I'm not sure if I understand your question. Of your life baggage into the story that is not related. If you can rephrase your question.
Sometimes as storytellers, we tend to
Tomek, I cannot hear you well. Maybe you can come closer to a microphone.
Yes, sometimes with storytelling, we tend to bring too much of our personal life that we had a bad day and how to not impact it in the message that we want.
So in every kind of public speaking, storytelling including, we first of all need to think that our story is for someone who is listening to us. So even if we have, a bad mood or I don't know, we are frustrated because of something and we tend to project it, we should actually think, okay, is this really something that our audience needs? Like, is this really something that will highlight the main message I have for them? So I would say switch your attention from yourself more to your audience. To what extent they need to feel these emotions that you have, whether this actually supports the goal of your story and supports the main message of your story. So I think here the key is more to focus on your audience and to what they need to know and filter everything that you are going to say through their needs. Okay, Krish, you ask also how much storytelling is too much when it comes to addressing cis-youth people. That's a good question. And of course, the type of storytelling I'm showing you now, it's not really like I mean, some elements can be used for business, but definitely when you are going to a meeting and you speak to executives, you value their time more than time of anyone else, because these are like people who will give you like 2 minutes and that's it. So generally with the cis-youth people, the stories should be structured a little bit differently. So for example, when I have some serious business talks, I always start from the main point of my story. Here, you know, the main message was it was revealed at the end of the story, and that's fine. It was a different type of story. But when you are talking to C-suite, to executives, I recommend to always start from the so what of your story, so the main message of your story, and only then describe what you mean. You can use an anecdote, it's absolutely fine, but always remember that to start with the main point so they know why they need to listen to you for the next few minutes. that will be their general rule. Okay, guys, so let's continue with our story. I'm building now the atmosphere. Again, we are still in the joyful moments, in the joyful part. I don't have the music, uplifting music, so I will just, you know, exaggerate with the sentences. Jessica kept brushing Sarah's hair, walking together with her and Papa along the neighboring river. Sarah couldn't believe her luck. Out of so many girls in the shelter, they chose exactly her. She ate with them, sometimes even got a bite of a chicken ham or two. She was at the doors a second after Jessica or Papa would mention, "Let's walk," or a river. And playing with the ball. She didn't know that before. Jessica used to say, "I throw, you catch." That was so much fun. Sarah could run with Jessica for hours. "Yes, Jessica, watch me catching the ball." So here, guys, maybe I could move a little bit more now when I think that I wanted to tell you about body language, but this is actually something that we can also use. We don't have actors in our movie, in our public speaking performance. We have only ourselves, and the tools that we have are words, body language, and vocal variety. About the vocal variety, I will still say a few words on the next slides. But here also, I wanted to make you aware that you can use also your body language, your face expressions consciously. And also, again, if you really want to show what you have in the head or the picture that you want to project on others, you really need to imagine it. You really need to have this picture first in your head and be, you know, enthusiastic and inspired yourself. And that way your body, your face expressions, your gestures will follow naturally. So if you have a possibility, or for example, you have your camera on or you are on the stage, remember also to use this as a weapon. We don't have also that much time in this workshop to focus on that. I just wanted to pay your attention that that's the way, that's also something that you can and you should use in your stories. Now we have the disruption moment when we have the birthday of Jessica. Again, I will read you the passage. Pay attention, please, to vocal variety this time. Everything was like a dream until the birthday. It was Jessica's big day. Mom spent hours in the kitchen preparing a delicious cake for Jessica. When the dinner started, everyone was hugging her. Sarah also approached her and wished to hug her sister like everyone else. She didn't notice the glass with wine on the table. She didn't understand why. Out of a sudden, her mama's face changed. Was she angry? She yelled so loudly. Sarah didn't understand anything of what Mama was yelling. Something about red wine, white tablecloth. Papa joined the yelling concert and they put her to sit alone in her room. And here, I wanted to pay your attention to our vocal variety. Both in such stories and in business stories, we can all imagine, a conference call without a video, but a conference call without sound won't be possible. So the more our voice really, really matters. And we can navigate our listeners by, first of all, projecting our voice, making it louder, making it softer. If we want to make this, intimate conversation, we can whisper. If it is about yelling, we can actually yell. So everything that will really, emphasize the message that we wish to project. Also, pausing and pace of the speech. Nothing works so well also in building tension like a good pause. You can see that, for example, in Barack Obama's speeches. Sometimes he just gives one sentence, he stops, and then everyone is like waiting, what's next? And then Barack says something really, really strong. So these are also the tools that we have and that we can use in storytelling. I always say that it's important that we write like Hemingway. So again, more showing the scenes rather than naming feelings and really like describing every part of the scene. And so write like Hemingway, but perform like Meryl Streep. There is a good video on YouTube where it's called Meryl Streep Makes Everything Sounds More Interesting. You can watch it like how she's actually changing her intention. By that, I mean that also when we are presenting something, it's good to first think of, okay, how we want the audience to understand us, or how we want to be perceived as, sexy, crazy, angry, sad. So it's good to imagine ourselves in that position first, and then just try to play it with dialogues that we may have in our story, or simply by sorry, I was just looking at the chat. By just telling the story, but also changing our intonation, depending on the atmosphere we wish to build. Okay, let's go to the next part. James, I see you're leaving us. Thank you for being with us in the workshop. Have a good sleep. Okay. Let's go to the next part. When Sarah is already alone. So here I put dialogue. From that day on, Jessica didn't seem to be interested in playing with her. Mama kept ignoring her. Go away, stupid! Don't waste my time! And Papa? Papa seemed to be busy all the time, spending evenings at his laptop. He didn't want to take her for walks along the river anymore. Here I wanted to pay your attention to dialogues. So I played Mama, but generally this is also something that you can use in your stories. Use dialogue. And very often, again, like now I'm speaking English, which is not my native language. And if I said that in Polish, I would feel scared myself, because honestly, never anyone told to me, go away, stupid, don't waste my time, or anything like that. So it's not resonating with me, these particular words. But if I heard that in Polish, that would probably move me much stronger. So also, if you are presenting not in your native language, dialogues might be these moments where you can use some words from your native language to feel it stronger yourself. And that way also your audience will feel it stronger because they will see that it is really moving you. So for example, in my contest speech that was mentioned by Florian, I'm also telling about my grandma. And there is a scene when I say to her, hello, Granny. But honestly, when I say hello, Granny, it's for me like, okay, I never spoke English to my grandma. But if I say, cześć babciu, oh, it sounds like me. I remember these scenes, right? So these are the moments that everyone can understand, even if, you know, if they don't speak Polish, they know that I'm saying hello to my grandma. And at the same time, I feel it much stronger. So also use this, use sometimes maybe your native language to emphasize some points, to move yourself as well, so as you can move your audience. Now we have the scene, the next scene with Sarah. Here I wish to pay your attention to repetitions, and I call it refrains. So, you know, to build this tension at the beginning of the story, I tend to repeat some thoughts. I tend to repeat that, you know, Sarah is happy with her family. I tend to later repeat that she feels lonely again. So in this passage, I say, nobody wanted to play with her anymore. Nobody except her shelter toy, Molly. She was again her only friend. As she couldn't explore the neighboring river area, she decided to explore the house on her own. And on her own, in the bedroom, she took out all the pencils and crayons from the colorful box, even biting some of the crayons and checking whether she can break them. Can she break them? She had such strong teeth. Which kid doesn't like to experiment? So here mainly I wanted to show you that, you know, in school, our teachers often mark our repetition, like don't use repetitions. But generally, there's nothing wrong with repetitions, especially if we use them consciously. If we use them again to build atmosphere and emphasize something. And also a good thing about repetitions is that they work a little bit like pausing, because they help our readers to rest a bit. When they hear it another time, and you know, they know that we are describing a set or series of something, then that's the moment when our audience can also take some rest. Now, building tension. One of another rhetoric devices is enumeration. This will be here at the end of this passage, so I will read it quickly. It finally brought attention of Mama and Papa. They finally noticed her. Yay! They were yelling again, but well, they are just humans. Maybe this is how they are expressing their feelings now, she thought. She was happy that Papa finally took her and Molly and called her to the car, the same silver car she waited at her window every day in the shelter. Now I am about to cry. Another exciting journey. She loved the smell of the car, the same smell she felt the first day when her Papa picked her up from the shelter. It was a sign of something good, something exciting and long awaited. Where will we go this time? Maybe another big river where she can throw a ball all day and run and hug and get some bites of the chicken ham. So again, you know, I'm exaggerating here. I'm again building this atmosphere that Sarah is not expecting anything wrong to happen. On the other hand, she knows the car, she knows Papa. These are all good signs to her. So she believes that she is in good hands. And also as for rhetoric devices, again, we have enumeration at the end. So basically a series of some objects, for example, events, verbs, etc. And it's similar to repetition. It helps us to emphasize something, but at the same time, it helps our listeners to, let's say, take a rest, because they know that, oh, that's the moment, kind of landscape description, when we can basically not focus that much. Okay, we are about to finish our story. Before we finish, 2 more passages. But wait, Papa forgot the ball. How will we manage without the ball? Oh, he's so smart. He took Molly and threw it far, far away. He's so strong. I needed to run a really long distance to pick her up this time. But look, Papa, I managed. Watch me catching. And that's the phrase I used before when she was playing with Jessica. Watch me catching, right? So again, this is something that was supposed to be positive in a different context. But now we already know that Papa has wrong intentions. Then she started to look around. Papa, where are you? Why are you driving away? I'm fast, but not that fast, Papa. Sarah tried to scream as much as she could. And here, guys, first of all, I wanted to show you that, again, it's good, again, to keep the uplifting tone and show that our hero is not expecting to be left on the road. We are still in this mood. We are watching the scene from her perspective. But also, one more technical thing I wanted to show you at this moment is to review our text, review our words. So I marked some words red here because generally less is more in writing, unless we are already very skilled writers. But if we are not, first of all, if we can say something with one verb, it's better to use one verb instead of two verbs. Like here, I could say, I run long distance. And here, with this really long distance, so remember to avoid modifiers like really long, truly great, or words like our past history. Of course, history is past, so we don't need to add past history. So generally, at the end, always take a second look at your script and think of the words that you can leave out. Less is more. Also, don't use passive forms. Always try to use active verbs. There's nothing, unless you speak German, always try to make verb, the main part of your sentence and put it somewhere close at the beginning of your sentence, close to your subject. That's a very, very important in writing and in speaking as well, because making people wait for the verb is making them tired. So unless, again, we speak German where the verb is always at the end of the sentence. And now to wrap it up, here I put the last passage, and I want to pay your attention to one thing. Like maybe here also in this passage you will notice, because I see it's very wordy. So now when I look at this, I'm thinking, oh, I will leave out some words. It's just too much. But generally, again, it's good to give the main sense of the story, but with not moralizing too much. So let's do it quite softly. And my proposition for that was as follows. But the car was too fast and her voice was too weak. After all, she was just 50 centimeters tall and her barking was not as loud as the barking of expensive breed dogs, like barking of golden retrievers. She was just a Sarah from the shelter. Her only identification sign was her toy, Molly. She kept standing on the road and waiting for her papa, as she waited every morning for him to pick her up from the shelter. Maybe that was a new place she didn't know yet, and he will be back before the dawn. These people are always so moody and changing their minds so often, when the life can be just a simple play and pieces of a good chicken ham from time to time. Fellow storytellers, every day, number of dogs adopted from Warsaw shelters end up left by their owners on streets and in forests. Sarah is just one of them, a birthday gift that got boring and annoying to her new family after a few days only. Think about it. Would you just buy a child under the pressure? Would you simply ignore a child when they want to play with you? Would you expect the child to understand aggressive yelling? Oh, sorry. And finally, would you leave your child on the street because they slipped wine on a tablecloth? Remember that dogs rely on you as much as children. Give them home when you are ready for it. So that's the final passage of our story, guys. Here, now when I look at it, I feel it's quite wordy, but generally, it's always better to maybe add some questions to the audience to move them, instead of saying, remember, be responsible, you know. So again, we try to appeal to emotions, but in let's say soft way, not moralizing our audience. Okay, so we are ready to go to the next workshops, guys. Two ideas that I want to leave you with is that for the future, for your future stories, always try to first imagine your story or draw it, you know, doodle it, sketch it, whatever you can do. It doesn't need to be pretty. You just need to know what you want to deliver. Like first imagine it and only then try to describe it. Once you feel it yourself, it will be much easier to play with words and to describe what you mean. And in the next workshops, I know you will learn some sketching, you will learn some drawing. So I hope you will also get some tools to sketch your speeches and later to play around with the pictures. Thank you so much for your active participation. Thank you for all your comments or all your suggestions. And I hope to see you in the next workshops. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Magda, for this very interesting and insightful workshop on storytelling. Some good techniques, some practical tips, and yes, the power of native language in storytelling. It's kind of the almost the icing on the cake, the thing that's just spice it up and makes it more natural and more authentic.